In the last section, we introduced Ember and talked about where to go to get help. In this section, we are going to introduce the structure of an Ember application. We're going to cover what parts make up the application, how the parts integrate, and how our users will interact with the application using the Ember router. Let's look at what pattern an Ember application requires to run. Ember follows a version of the MVC pattern. This is a fairly standard way of structuring an application so that user interface logic is kept separate from the data. A distinction is made between persistent and temporary data storage. After the next few minutes, you should have some idea as to what data fits where. To illustrate the MVC pattern, we'll show an example. This is Albert Park Lake in Melbourne, Australia, where the Australian Grand Prix is held, and it's shown in OpenStreetMaps. I can move the map around or search for a location. The M part of MVC stands for model. The model is usually concerned with data that remains the same between user visits. For instance, here we might want to represent our road positions and names as models, as hopefully they won't change too often. The C in MVC stands for controller. Controllers are interested in data that hangs around for a single user visit. When the user leaves, controller data is often destroyed. Here the controller might store the position I've dragged the map to. Ember's controller objects normally manage a single model instance, or an array of model instances. They decorate the model, meaning they add some additional transient functionality. Ember uses the router in the same way a more traditional MVC pattern might use a controller. The router links user actions to application state, and collects and provides model instances. We'll learn more about the router in the next video. Finally, the V in MVC stands for view. Views take model and controller data and render it on the screen. In this case, the view controls what color the roads are and where they appear. Ember views tend to be lower-level DOM items, almost like user controls in some desktop programming languages. Plain HTML and optionally some views are lumped together into a template, which is what is rendered in the browser. Ember therefore fills the V part of MVC with templates, views, and components. This has been a fairly short introduction to the MVC pattern, as it applies to Ember. We'll make practical use of these concepts in future videos when we decide how to structure our exercise application. Now that you have a rough idea of where different data fits into the MVC pattern, in the next video we're going to look at the Ember router, which is the bit of magic that ties together all the parts of an Ember application.